The challenge accepted. The Odyssey's engineering bay hummed with barely contained energy as Captain Sarah Chen ran her hand along the newly installed gravitational compensator. The device, cobbled together from Earth technology and reverse-engineered alien tech, represented everything that made humanity unique in the galaxy: resourcefulness, adaptability, and perhaps a touch of reckless innovation. "It'll hold, Captain," Chief Engineer Maya Rodriguez said, emerging from behind a cluster of power conduits. Her dark hair was tied back in a practical braid, and her uniform bore the marks of countless hours spent turning theoretical physics into working machinery. "But I still think we're crazy for even attempting this." Sarah smiled, remembering the day 3 months ago when the Galactic Council had announced the 500th Grand Tournament. For centuries, various alien civilizations had competed in this prestigious event, showcasing their most advanced ships in a series of increasingly challenging trials. Humanity, barely a century into faster-than-light travel, had never been invited to participate. This year was different. The Council had extended an invitation to Earth, not out of respect, but as what Sarah suspected was a political gesture to placate the primitive newcomers. The condescension in Ambassador Exthol's voice during the announcement had been unmistakable. "Let all species who believe themselves worthy come forth," he had declared, his crystalline form shimming with barely concealed amusement. "Even those who have just learned to crawl among the stars." The United Earth government had initially considered declining the invitation. After all, humanity's most advanced ships were centuries behind the technology of races like the crystalline Luxury or the energy-based Arcturus Collective. But Sarah had fought for this chance, arguing that humanity needed to prove itself on the galactic stage. "Final systems check," she announced, activating her neural link to the ship's eye. The Odyssey's systems flickered through her consciousness. Engines at 98% efficiency, structural integrity fields holding steady, and the new modifications all operating within acceptable parameters. "Bridge to engineering," First Officer David Kumar's voice came through the comm. "The Luxury delegation is requesting our presence at the pre-tournament briefing. They seem particularly eager to explain the safety protocols." Again, Sarah exchanged a knowing look with Maya. The alien races had spent the past week alternating between patronizing attempts to convince humanity to withdraw and thinly veiled warnings about the dangers of the tournament. They couldn't seem to decide whether to treat humans as children or threats. "Tell them we'll be there shortly," Sarah responded, straightening her uniform. "And David, make sure our sensor recordings are active. I want to document every condescending remark for posterity. Assuming we survive this." The walk to the briefing chamber gave Sarah time to observe the other competing vessels through the space station's massive observation windows. The Luxury ship resembled a perfect geometric structure, all crystalline angles and impossible symmetry. The Arcturus vessel seemed to barely exist in normal space, its energy-based construction flickering between dimensions. Compared to these marvels of advanced technology, the Odyssey looked almost primitive with its solid hull and visible engine ports. But appearances could be deceiving. Where alien ships relied on pure technological superiority, the Odyssey represented a hybrid approach. Humanity had taken their understanding of primitive physics and combined it with reverse-engineered alien tech in ways the other races would never consider. After all, why would beings who could manipulate gravity at the quantum level ever think to combine it with old-fashioned rocket propulsion? The briefing chamber fell silent as Sarah and Maya entered. Representatives from 12 advanced civilizations turned to stare at the humans, some with multiple eyes, others with sensory organs humans couldn't even comprehend. Ambassador Exthul floated at the head of the chamber, his crystalline form refracting light in patterns that indicated surprise. "Ah, our enterprising human participants," he said, the translation matrix struggling to convey his tone. "We were just discussing the first trial. Are you certain you wish to proceed? The energy requirements alone exceed your world's total power generation capacity." Sarah stepped forward, her voice clear and confident. The Odyssey is ready, Ambassador. Perhaps instead of questioning our capabilities, you should prepare yourself for some surprises. A ripple of what might have been laughter moved through the alien delegates. The representative of the Arcturus Collective, a being of pure energy contained within a ceremonial field, pulsed with apparent amusement. Surprises? It communicated directly into their minds. Your species has barely mastered basic space travel. The tournament's first trial alone involves navigating through a quantum singularity field. Your primitive sensors cannot even detect such phenomena. Maya stepped forward, her eyes bright with the fire that had driven humanity to the stars. With all due respect, that's where you're wrong. We don't need to detect quantum singularities the way you do. We've found our own solution. The aliens' dismissive attitudes only strengthened Sarah's resolve. Humanity had spent its entire history being told what it couldn't do, couldn't fly, couldn't break the sound barrier, couldn't reach space. Each time, human ingenuity and determination had proven the doubters wrong. The first trial begins in 6 hours, Sarah announced, turning to leave. I suggest you all watch carefully. The Odyssey might just redefine what you consider possible. As they walked back to their ship, Maya glanced at her captain. You do realize we've just painted an enormous target on our backs. Sarah's smile was fierce and determined. Good. Let them underestimate us. Humanity has always performed best when everyone else thinks we're going to fail. The Odyssey awaited them, her hull gleaming under the station's lights. She might not be the most advanced ship in the tournament, but she carried something no alien vessel could match. The indomitable spirit of a species that had fought its way to the stars through sheer determination. All hands, Sarah announced over the ship-wide comm as they boarded. Final preparations for the first trial begin now. Let's show the galaxy what humanity can do. The tournament was about to begin, and against all odds, humanity was ready to make its mark on the stars. First trials. The quantum singularity field stretched before the Odyssey like a twisted tapestry of warped space-time. Through the bridge's main viewport, Sarah could see the other competing vessels positioning themselves for the first trial. Their alien designs sparkled with advanced technology that made them seem more like natural phenomena than constructed ships. All stations, report, Sarah commanded, her eyes fixed on the challenge ahead. Engineering systems nominal. Maya's voice came through clear and confident. Our quantum wake detector is functioning. Well, as much as any human-made device can function in this mess. Navigation ready, Lieutenant Raj Patel announced from his station. His fingers hovered over the manual controls, another primitive feature that had drawn mockery from the alien competitors. Course plotted through the preliminary sensor data. The trial seemed simple enough on paper. Navigate through a field of microscopic quantum singularities while collecting specific energy signatures from designated points. The alien ships would use their advanced sensors and quantum field manipulators to dance through the course with precision. The Odyssey, however, would have to try something different. Attention all vessels. Ambassador Exthol's voice resonated through the comm system. The first trial will commence in 30 seconds. May the most advanced, that is, may the most worthy competitor prevail. Sarah ignored the slight. Maya, initiate the wake detection system. Raj, prepare for manual corrections. David, keep our structural integrity fields at maximum. The countdown reached 0, and the alien ships surged forward with impossible grace. The Luxury vessel seemed to split into multiple quantum states, existing in several positions simultaneously. The Arcturus ship simply phased through space as if the singularities didn't exist. Our turn, Sarah announced. Raj, take us in, just like we practiced. The Odyssey moved forward, but instead of trying to detect the singularities themselves, they were tracking the quantum wake left by the other ships. Maya's ingenious detection system used the disturbances created by their competitors to map safe passages through the field. First energy signature detected, David reported. 300 kilometers to starboard. They're all collecting the closest signatures first, Raj observed. The obvious route. Sarah smiled. Then we'll take the less obvious one. Plot a course to the furthest signature. Let's see how they handle that. The Odyssey pushed deeper into the field, its hull humming with the strain of nearby spatial distortions. While the alien vessels darted about collecting the nearest signatures, Sarah's crew focused on reaching the far side of the field first. Captain, Maya's voice carried a note of concern. The wake patterns are shifting. I think some of our competitors have noticed our strategy. Through the viewport, Sarah could see the Luxury ship adjusting its course to intercept them. The crystalline vessel's surface rippled with complex patterns, their form of communication showing clear agitation. They don't like that we're not following their predictable pattern, Sarah observed. Good. Raj, prepare for evasive pattern Delta 3. The Odyssey suddenly cut its main engines, relying on momentum and precise maneuvering thrusters to continue its trajectory. The move would have been suicide with conventional navigation, but they weren't using conventional navigation. Energy signature acquired, David announced triumphantly. We're the first to reach this collection point. A burst of surprised chatter erupted over the general comm channel as the alien competitors registered what had just happened. The Arcturus vessel, in particular, emitted pulses of light that the translation matrix interpreted as expressions of disbelief. Impossible, came the crystalline voice of the Luxury captain. Their sensors cannot possibly. Next signature, Sarah interrupted, refusing to let them shake her crew's confidence. Maya, how's our wake detection holding up? Better than expected, Captain. The more they move around trying to figure out what we're doing, the more data we have to work with. The trial continued, with the Odyssey executing its unorthodox strategy to perfection. While the alien ships tried to overwhelm the course with pure technology, humanity's approach proved surprisingly effective. They weren't the fastest, but they were the most efficient, collecting the distant signatures while their competitors wasted energy darting between the closer ones. Final signature in range, David reported, his voice tense with concentration. But the field density is increasing. The wake patterns are becoming chaotic. Sarah leaned forward in her command chair. Maya, divert power to the structural integrity fields. Raj, maintain course but be ready for emergency maneuvers. The Odyssey pushed forward, its hull creaking under the strain of the nearby singularities. Warning lights flashed across multiple consoles as the ship's systems struggled to compensate for the intense gravitational forces. The Arcturus ship is attempting to overtake us, David warned. They're using some kind of quantum tunneling effect. Let them, Sarah replied calmly. Raj, prepare to execute break pattern on my mark. The energy-based vessel stretched itself across space-time, trying to reach the final signature first. It was a display of overwhelming technological superiority, and exactly what Sarah had been waiting for. Mark. The Odyssey suddenly fired its lateral thrusters, using the Arcturus ship's own quantum tunneling effect as a shield against the surrounding singularities. The maneuver was dangerous, practically suicidal by alien standards, but it worked. They slipped through the disruption in the quantum field and reached the final signature moments before their competitor. Collection complete, David announced, unable to keep the excitement from his voice. All signatures acquired. The quantum field began to dissipate as the trial came to an end. The Odyssey emerged alongside the other ships, its hull bearing the scars of its journey, but its victory undeniable. They had completed the course with the highest efficiency rating, using less energy and collecting the signatures in a more optimal pattern than their technologically superior competitors. As they docked at the tournament station, Sarah could see the alien representatives gathering in the observation lounge. Their body language, those who had bodies, suggested they were engaged in heated discussion about what they had just witnessed. Well done, everyone. Sarah addressed her crew, pride evident in her voice. But don't celebrate too hard. This was just the first trial, and I suspect our competitors won't underestimate us again. Maya's laugh came through the comm. Good. It's more fun this way. The Odyssey had proven that humanity belonged in the tournament, but Sarah knew the real challenges were just beginning. The aliens would be analyzing their performance, adapting their strategies, and preparing new ways to demonstrate their superiority. But that was fine. Humanity had spent its entire existence adapting, improving, and overcoming impossible odds. The tournament was about to discover why. The sabotage. The observation deck of Tournament Station Alpha hummed with tension as Sarah examined the damage to the Odyssey's primary sensor array. Through the reinforced windows, she could see engineering crews in spacesuits moving carefully around the ship's hull, their tools casting bright sparks against the dark metal. It wasn't an accident, Maya reported, her voice tight with anger as she reviewed the diagnostic data on her tablet. The quantum resonance patterns in our array were deliberately destabilized. Someone knew exactly where to hit us and how. Sarah's jaw clenched. Their unexpected success in the first trial had earned them more than just surprised looks from their competitors. The last 48 hours had seen a series of mysterious malfunctions affecting the Odyssey systems. Nothing catastrophic enough to force their withdrawal, but enough to make their participation in the next trial significantly more challenging. Can we prove it? David asked, his dark eyes scanning the other ships docked at the station. The luxury vessel gleamed innocently in its berth, while the Arcturus ship pulsed with its usual ethereal energy. Not in any way the tournament committee would accept, Maya replied. The sabotage was too clever for that. Whoever did this understands our technology better than they should. Sarah turned away from the window, her mind racing through options. The next trial would begin in less than 12 hours. A complex test of ship maneuverability through an artificial solar storm. Without their primary sensor array, their chances of success dropped dramatically. Captain Chen. A melodious voice interrupted her thoughts. Ambassador X-Thull approached, his crystalline form refracting the station's lights in patterns that seemed almost sympathetic. I've just heard about your technical difficulties. Perhaps this is a sign that your vessel isn't quite ready for the rigors of advanced competition. Thank you for your concern, Ambassador, Sarah replied smoothly. But the Odyssey will be ready for the next trial. Of course. X-Thull's form rippled with what might have been amusement, though no one would think less of humanity if you chose to withdraw. After all, your initial success was impressive enough for a species at your level of development. Before Sarah could respond, Maya stepped forward. Captain, I need you in engineering. We may have found something. The engineering bay was a hive of activity when they arrived. Crew members moved with purpose between workstations, and holographic displays showed detailed scans of the damaged sensor array. Look at this, Maya said, pulling up a detailed analysis. The saboteur didn't just damage our sensors. They tried to access our database. They wanted to know how we navigated the quantum field. Sarah studied the data. They're scared, she realized. We solved the first trial in a way they never anticipated, and now they're scrambling to understand how. Exactly, Maya grinned. And that gives me an idea. We can't repair the primary array in time. But what if we didn't need to? What if we could turn their sabotage against them? Over the next 10 hours, the engineering crew worked feverishly. Under Maya's direction, they didn't just repair the damaged systems, they completely reconfigured them. The saboteurs' attempt to understand their technology had left traces, quantum fingerprints that could be tracked. All hands, this is the captain, Sarah announced as the countdown to the second trial began. What we're about to attempt is unprecedented. Our competitors think they've crippled us. Let's show them how humanity deals with setbacks. The artificial solar storm raged ahead of them, a carefully controlled apocalypse of plasma and magnetic energy. The alien ships moved into position, their advanced shields already adapting to the electromagnetic chaos. Storm intensity at 70% of maximum, David reported from his station. The luxury vessel is taking the lead, followed by the Arcturus collective. Perfect. Sarah smiled. Maya, is our little surprise ready? Ready and waiting, Captain. The quantum traces from the sabotage are still active in their systems. They didn't just study our technology, they linked to it. The Odyssey moved forward, its modified sensors reaching out to the other ships. Where before they had used their competitors' wake patterns to navigate, now they were using the quantum connection the saboteur had inadvertently created. My God, David breathed as data flooded his console. We're receiving direct feeds from their sensor systems. Everything they see, we see. The alien vessels plowed confidently into the storm, their superior technology creating safe passages through the plasma. They didn't realize that every move they made, every adjustment their advanced sensors calculated, was being transmitted directly to the Odyssey. Plot a course that parallels the luxury ship, Sarah ordered. Let's see how they like having their own technology used against them. The Odyssey followed in the wake of the alien vessel, using their sensor data to navigate the storm with impossible precision. To outside observers, it would appear that the human ship had not only recovered from the sabotage, but had somehow improved its capabilities. The luxury ship is changing course, David reported. They've detected the data leak, and the Arcturus vessel is experiencing similar issues. Confusion spread through the competitor channels as the alien ships tried to understand what was happening. Their own safety protocols, designed to protect against the storm, prevented them from shutting down the connections without risking their vessels. They're trapped by their own advanced technology, Maya said with satisfaction. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best. The Odyssey continued through the course, matching every move of its competitors with perfect precision. When the luxury ship found a safe path, the human vessel was there. When the Arcturus collective discovered an efficient route, the Odyssey followed. Final approach, David announced as they neared the trial's endpoint. Storm intensity at maximum. Take us home, Sarah ordered, watching as her ship rode the waves of plasma and magnetic energy with grace that belied its supposedly primitive design. As they emerged from the storm, the silence on the competition channels was deafening. The Odyssey had not only survived the trial, it had matched the performance of ships centuries more advanced, using their own technology against them. Well done, everyone, Sarah addressed her crew as they docked. I believe we've just taught our friends out there an important lesson about underestimating primitive technology. Maya's voice carried a note of fierce pride. And about the dangers of trying to sabotage a human vessel. That too, Sarah smiled. Though something tells me we haven't seen the last of their attempts to remove us from this competition. Looking out at the gathered alien vessels, Sarah could almost feel the shift in their attitude. They no longer saw the Odyssey as an amusing curiosity. Now they recognized it as a threat, and that made it more dangerous than ever. The tournament was entering a new phase, and humanity had just proven they could play the game at the highest level. The only question was, how far would their competitors go to stop them? Breaking point. The semifinal briefing chamber felt more like a war room than a sporting venue. Sarah sat at the curved table, acutely aware of the tension radiating from the alien representatives. The Odyssey's successive victories had transformed the tournament from a showcase of advanced technology into something else entirely, a challenge to the established order of the galaxy. The semifinal trial, Ambassador Exthul announced, his crystalline form unusually rigid, will test the absolute limits of your vessels and crews. You will navigate through a collapsed star system, passing through the debris field of a recently destroyed planet, while collecting specific elemental samples from the system's unique radiation zones. The holographic display showed their target, a graveyard of stellar proportions. The remnants of a massive planet orbited a dying star, creating a maze of radioactive debris and gravitational anomalies that would challenge even the most advanced ships. To ensure fairness, Exthul continued, his tone carrying an edge Sarah hadn't heard before. All vessels must rely solely on their own systems. Any attempt to capitalize on the capabilities of other ships will result in immediate disqualification. The message was clear. Their creative solution in the previous trial had not been appreciated. Back aboard the Odyssey, Sarah called an emergency meeting of her senior staff. The ship's main conference room displayed detailed scans of the trial zone, each image more daunting than the last. "I won't sugarcoat this," Maya said, pointing to the radiation readings. "The levels in those collection zones are off the charts. Even with our best shielding, we can't survive more than a few minutes of exposure." "The alien ships won't have this problem," David added. "Their quantum shields and energy-based systems are practically immune to radiation." Sarah studied the scans, her mind racing. They had come too far to give up now. But this challenge seemed specifically designed to exploit their weaknesses. "What about the debris field? Talk to me about the composition." Maya pulled up a detailed analysis. Mostly heavy elements. The planet's core was apparently rich in rare earth metals and radioactive materials. Some pieces are the size of small moons. "And the gravitational patterns?" "Chaotic," Raj replied from his station. "The star's dying state is creating unpredictable fluctuations. Traditional navigation will be nearly impossible." Sarah was about to respond when a priority alert flashed across the main screen. "Report," she ordered. "Message from the tournament committee," David said, his expression darkening as he read. They're requiring all ships to submit to a pre-trial inspection. To ensure compliance with tournament regulations, they want to check that we haven't hidden any advanced technology." Maya translated, her voice bitter. "They still can't believe we've made it this far on our own merit." Sarah stood, her decision made. "Let them inspect. In fact, Maya, I want you to give them a complete tour of our systems. Show them exactly how primitive we are." "Captain," David questioned, "the more they focus on looking for hidden advanced technology, the less they'll notice what we're actually planning." She turned to her crew, her eyes bright with determination. "I have an idea, but it's going to require us to think even further outside the box than usual." The next 6 hours were a flurry of activity, while the inspection team combed through the Odyssey's systems, finding exactly what they expected: a relatively primitive human vessel. The crew was making subtle modifications that no advanced civilization would ever consider. "It's insane," Maya said as they made the final preparations. "It goes against every principle of space travel." If it works," Sarah finished, "we'll prove once and for all that humanity deserves its place among the stars." As the ships lined up for the start of the trial, Sarah could feel the weight of the moment. They were about to attempt something that no other species would even consider, something that might very well get them all killed. "All stations, report," she commanded. "Engineering ready," Maya responded, "though I still think we're crazy." "Navigation standing by," Raj added. "Course plotted through the initial debris field." "Structural integrity at maximum," David reported. "Not that it'll help much if we're wrong about this." The countdown began, and the alien ships surged forward, their advanced systems easily compensating for the chaos around them. The Odyssey held position, waiting. "What are they doing?" she heard one of the alien captains demand over the general channel. "Their vessel appears to be malfunctioning." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Now, Maya." The Odyssey's main engines cut out completely. For a moment, the ship hung motionless in space. Then, using a precisely calculated explosion of their secondary fuel reserves, they created their own shockwave. "Riding the wave," Raj announced as the Odyssey surfed the explosion's aftermath, using the debris field itself as a shield against the radiation. The alien vessels watched in disbelief as the human ship essentially snowballed through space, each carefully controlled detonation using the massive debris pieces as both propulsion and protection. "First collection zone approaching," David reported. "Radiation levels are survivable, barely." The Odyssey shot through the zone, its makeshift shield of planetary debris absorbing the worst of the radiation, while allowing their collection systems to gather the required samples. It wasn't elegant, it wasn't advanced, but it was working. "The Luxury ship is attempting to copy our strategy," Maya reported with a laugh. "They're failing miserably. Their systems are too refined to handle this kind of crude manipulation. Through the viewport, Sarah watched as their competitors struggled to adapt. Their advanced technology, designed to counter the laws of physics, couldn't match the Odyssey's embrace of those same laws. "Final collection zone ahead," David announced. "But the radiation levels are twice what we calculated. Our shields won't hold." Sarah gripped her chair as she made her decision. "Divert all power to the collection systems. Drop shields entirely." "Captain," Maya protested, "that's suicide." "No," Sarah replied calmly. "That's humanity. We didn't get to the stars by playing it safe. Execute the order." The Odyssey plunged into the final zone, its hull directly exposed to the deadly radiation. Warning alarms blared throughout the ship as systems began to fail, but the collection proceeded at maximum efficiency. "Samples secured," David shouted over the chaos. "Getting us out of here." With a final controlled detonation, the Odyssey shot clear of the debris field, its hull glowing with absorbed radiation, but its mission accomplished. They had completed the trial in record time, using a method that no advanced civilization would ever have conceived. As they limped back to the station, Sarah could see the other ships still struggling with the challenge. Their superior technology had become a liability, preventing them from considering simpler, more direct solutions. "Damage report," she requested, though she could already guess the answer. "The hull's been cooked pretty thoroughly," Maya replied. "We'll need major repairs before the final." "But Captain, we did it. We actually did it." Sarah looked at her crew. Exhausted, radiation exposed, but triumphant. They had faced what seemed like an impossible challenge and overcome it through sheer human audacity. "The finals are next," she reminded them. "And after this performance, our competitors will be more determined than ever to stop us." "Let them try," David said firmly. "They still haven't figured out humanity's greatest advantage." "And what's that?" Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. "We're too stubborn to know when we're beaten. Last edited 5 minutes ago against all odds." The atmosphere aboard Tournament Station Alpha was electric as the finalists prepared for the last trial. Only 2 ships remained. The Odyssey, its hull still bearing the scars of the semifinal, and the Arcturus vessel, a being of pure energy and technological perfection that had dominated the tournament for the past decade. Sarah stood in the Odyssey's cargo bay, watching as her crew made final preparations. The ship had been pushed well beyond its design limits in the previous trials, and despite Maya's best efforts, many systems were operating at reduced capacity. "Engineering report," Sarah called out, though she could already see the answer in Maya's exhausted face. "We've restored primary systems to about 80% efficiency," Maya replied, wiping grease from her hands. "The radiation damage from the semifinal. It's not something we can fully repair without a proper space dock. We're holding together with prayers and patch jobs. It'll have to be enough." Sarah turned as David entered the cargo bay, his expression grim. "What did you learn at the briefing?" "The final trial is unlike anything we've seen before," he reported, activating a holographic display. "They're calling it the Crucible. Each ship must navigate through a series of artificial quantum anomalies while maintaining a stable containment field around an unstable protomatter sample." The display showed a massive construct floating in space, a labyrinth of twisted reality and impossible physics. At its center pulsed a sphere of swirling energy that seemed to defy the laws of nature itself. "The Arcturus ship won't even need containment fields," Maya observed. "Their entire vessel is basically one big energy matrix. They can simply absorb the protomatter into their structure." "Which is exactly why we're not going to play by their rules," Sarah replied, a familiar glint in her eye. "Maya, how much of that radiation damage can we weaponize?" Maya's eyes widened as she caught on to her captain's thinking. "The hull is still saturated with exotic particles from the semifinal. If we modified our shield harmonics to create a resonance effect, we could use our own damage as a tool." Sarah finished. "David, get Raj down here. We need to recalibrate every system we have." It's time to show the galaxy what humanity does best, turning our weaknesses into strengths. The next few hours were a blur of activity as the crew transformed their battered ship into something entirely new. They weren't trying to match the Arcturus vessel's technological perfection. Instead, they were embracing their ship's flaws, its damage, its very humanity. As the final trial approached, Sarah addressed her crew one last time. Everything we've done in this tournament has led to this moment. The aliens think they understand us now. They expect us to be clever, to find unconventional solutions. But they still don't understand the most fundamental truth about humanity. We don't just overcome our limitations, we transform them into our greatest assets. The starting position loomed ahead, the crucible's twisted structure casting impossible shadows against the star-filled backdrop. The Arcturus ship pulsed with confident energy beside them, its very form seeming to mock the Odyssey's solid, damaged hull. Sarah's response was to cut all communication channels. Maya, initiate the resonance field. Raj, take us in. David, start the containment sequence. Let's show them what compromised can do. The trial began with a burst of energy that warped the fabric of space itself. The Arcturus ship flowed into the crucible like water, its energy-based structure perfectly adapted to the quantum chaos. The Odyssey, by contrast, seemed to shudder and crack, its hull blazing with radiation as their modified shields activated. Protomatter containment field stable, David reported as they collected their sample. Though stable might be a generous term for what we're doing. The Odyssey wasn't so much containing the protomatter as it was using its radiation-damaged hull to create a complex interference pattern that kept the sample in a constant state of quantum uncertainty. It wasn't elegant, it wasn't advanced, but it was working. Let them, Sarah commanded. Execute attack pattern Sierra. The Odyssey's damaged systems, rather than being a hindrance, became their greatest weapon. The radiation they were leaking created unpredictable quantum fluctuations in the crucible's structure. Where the Arcturus ship tried to flow through reality, they found the very fabric of space fighting back. They're attempting to compensate, Maya reported with satisfaction. But they can't predict what our damage will do next, because we can't predict it either. The race through the crucible became a battle of philosophies. Perfect technology versus controlled chaos. Precision versus adaptation. The Arcturus ship's superior capabilities became a liability as they tried to calculate exactly what the Odyssey's failing systems would do next. Final approach, David announced. Protomatter sample is, well, it's doing something I don't think protomatter is supposed to do, but it's still contained. The Odyssey's hull was now glowing with multiple colors of radiation, its shields creating patterns that defied analysis. They weren't just surviving the crucible. They were becoming part of it, their damage and imperfections creating a unique harmony with the quantum chaos around them. The Arcturus ship is faltering, Raj reported. Their energy matrix can't maintain coherence in our wake. Sarah leaned forward in her chair. Now, Maya, execute the final sequence. The Odyssey's engines erupted with a controlled overload, releasing a wave of radiation that transformed the quantum landscape of the crucible. The Arcturus ship, caught in the wake of this impossible phenomenon, found its perfect technology overwhelmed by the sheer unpredictability of human innovation. With a final surge of power, the Odyssey crossed the finish line, its hull barely holding together, but its protomatter sample successfully contained through means that defied conventional physics. The Arcturus ship followed seconds later, its energy form flickering with what might have been shock or disbelief. As the trial ended and the quantum chaos subsided, Sarah looked at her crew. Exhausted, triumphant, and proudly human. They had won not by being the most advanced or the most powerful, but by being the most adaptable, the most innovative, and the most willing to embrace their own imperfections. Well done, everyone, she said softly. We just rewrote the rules of what's possible. The tournament was over, but its impact would ripple through the galaxy for generations to come. Humanity had proven that true advancement wasn't about achieving perfection. It was about finding strength in weakness, opportunity in adversity, and hope in the face of impossible odds. As the Odyssey docked for the final time, its hull still glowing with exotic radiation, Sarah knew that they had done more than win a competition. They had shown the galaxy that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their technology or their capabilities, but in their unshakable spirit and their ability to turn any challenge, any setback, any limitation into an opportunity for triumph. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had arrived, and they had done it their way. Messy, unpredictable, and absolutely unstoppable.